Hi, welcome back to today's Tech Talk. Today we're going to be walking through how to use the word study tool in Logos. Let's get started. All right, so let's say you're on Logos and you're working through a Bible study. Let's say you go ahead and go to your library and search up your favorite Bible. I'm just going to pull up the ESV. That's a lot of letters that are not E, S, and V. So once we have the ESV pulled up, let me go ahead and search for Genesis 37. And let's say we're walking through Genesis 37, verse 18. And they saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. Now, what does that word conspired actually mean? What's the Hebrew word behind it, and what's some information that we can gather about that word? So if we highlight this word conspired and right-click, this menu option comes up with a lot of information. Now, what we're looking for today is the lemma information. So we're going to look for this little logo right beside Nachal, and that's going to tell us that this is the lemma information. And when we click on that, here we have lemma, fact book, Bible word study. So we're going to click on Bible word study to pull up the word study tool. And when you pull up the word study tool, it gives you at the top a list of some of the lexicons, the Hebrew lexicons that show how they translate this word. So halot has act slickly, deceptively, or act deceptively, or behave cunningly. Now, what these lexicons are doing is looking at all the different usages of this word throughout the Old Testament. And so they are going to have all of that information, and they're going to have distilled it already. Now, if you don't have much background in Hebrew, then this is going to be really useful for you because you're not going to have gone through the classes where they teach you how to do these word studies on your own. So these are resources that you're going to be able to use when you want to know what a Hebrew word means and in what context, and that's key. As we scroll down here, we see this wheel with 4 different meanings or translations for this word in the ESV. Now, if you click on the center where it has the Hebrew letters and some of the English definitions, it'll pull up all of the verses where that word is used, and you can see in context, they saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. And you can kind of see in the context how acting slickly or deceptively or cunningly, the ESV translators have decided conspired against is the best way to translate that. In other places like Malachi 1:14, the cheat is a better translation. Someone who's a cheater who acts deceptively. So you can see how there's a similar root behind each of the different uses, but the ESV translators kind of translate them a little bit differently depending on the context. Now, let's say you didn't want to use the ESV. If you go to this translation bar here and go over to the settings, you can change the default Bible to whatever Bible you want to know about. So let me type in NIV here, and there we have 4 different uses that the NIV has. So they include plotted. I actually can't remember if the ESV has that, but let's say that's different from how the ESV translates it. Interesting. I wonder why they translated it a little bit differently. After you go through kind of this wheel and the translation section, you have a little bit of root information. So beside this the 3 root letters of Nakal, there's a little square root symbol. And that tells you that this is the root information. And so that's where you get kind of the deceptive, deceitful, acting cunningly, conspiring. It kind of condenses all that down into what is the main thing that this word is trying to communicate. As you scroll past that, we have 3 different senses where there were 4 different translations, but here there's kind of 3 different senses of the word, where 2 of the translations get paired up together because they give the similar sense of conspiring or plotting based on the contexts. If you continue to go, they give some example uses. This can be kind of helpful, but if you've already been looking at the different verses, you already have this information for the most part. And finally, the clause participant section gives you a little bit more information about the context of the different usages. So, for example, in this situation, it's the brothers of Joseph who were conspiring against Joseph. And so they have agents where it's Asher, Dan, Gad, and the other brothers. So it almost characterizes how these brothers are acting towards Joseph. In other situations, you have the Midianites who acted deceptively with the Israelites. And instead of agent, down here we have patient. So Joseph was the one who was conspired against, or the Israelites were. And so it just gives you a little bit more information about the context to help you be able to digest what's going on here, how is this word being used. And so that kind of wraps up the information that's available to you in the Bible word study. There's a little bit more, and you can feel free to explore that, but that's kind of the main, most helpful aspects of the Bible word study tool in Logos. That's all we have today for word studies in Logos. Join us again next time for another Tech Talk.